you. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming along tonight or this afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, to learn a little bit about the science of Nrf2 activation and what that could mean for your horse. So I am Patricia Bowerman. I am in the UK, and I will be joined tonight by 4 fabulous equine experts from the US and the UK. So we're going to jump in right now with our speakers first, because a couple are short on time. And we're going to hear from them about their personal horses and horses that they work with. And then we'll look at what Nrf2 activation is and how it works to combat so many issues. And then at the end, we'll take your questions. So Sarah is our first speaker. She's joining us from the US. She has an associate professor of equine studies. Among her impressive accolades are horse show equestrian, winning many awards. And Sarah also enjoys barrel racing and pole bending competitions, as well as raises and trains horses. So, phew, that's quite a bit. So, Sarah, if you'd unmute yourself and take it away.
I appreciate energy that we have between the two of us. This will it's exciting, and it's something we're really looking forward to. So I have been with Life Vantage very long. I joined since February, so my experiences are relatively new, but I'm so excited and energized about the things that I'm experiencing. So there's like 3 horses that I can pick out that I have. They're all in the pro tandem. The biggest thing I think with horse and human that I've experienced is the healing that takes place. One of my lesson people had a horse that on a heel ball off, and within 4 days you couldn't even tell where it was. That was remarkable in the healing. I have another horse that was diagnosed with shivers. He had flipped over with the rider, and they were kind of at a loss. So they took him to found out that he had shivers, and he is also in the pro tandem. They have not decided to get on him yet because the flipping that he did, but they are gradually putting him back to work now. And they say that now he just floats like he's never moved before on a lunge line. And we're starting to see a lot of improvement in his attitude. So to me, that is, encouraging also. I have my own personal barrel mare on there, and she has struggled with ulcers and just, she's a super sensitive mare, kind of nervous. And after I had it on her about 2 weeks, I mean, she actually does a flat-footed walk now, which was that interesting. But so I see a big difference in her. I see a difference in her hair coat, just temperament. She's just all around much easier, and she seems more. So the behavior I've seen in her has been super. The healing also has crossed over to the human side of things, and myself also, because I am an instructor. I teach outside, I ride horses outside, I constantly, the skin damage on my face has definitely been a factor, and little to happen, it's like all of a sudden they're gone. So I had some places on my ears and on my nose that were, the typical kind of flaky kind of skin, and those both have also disappeared. So the biggest thing that I've taken away is just the healing and like mental clarity, I think, in the animals in addition to myself. So I'm just super excited about it. Every time I'm on one of these Zoom calls, the energy that you get from this company and the product and hear the people's stories has just driven me to like be so excited to be a part of it.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much. That's quite diverse, and I love your energy. Love that. So thank you so much. So now we're going to hear from Candace, our next speaker, also from the US. She has a BS in equine science, has a team of health consultants focusing on natural approaches to equine health, and is a riding instructor as well. And she has a little guest that we're going to have a look at. So I'm going to share my screen again. And Candace, if you want to unmute yourself, and I'll bring up Appleby here. So
Hi, everybody.
Tell us about Appleby.
I sure will. Thank you, Patricia, for having me on here. This is awesome. I'm so excited. So I actually have 4 horses right now, kind of personally, or that I'm working with on a daily basis that I have on the Pro Tandem. We'll talk about Appleby first. So I teach lessons at a therapeutic riding center. It's a research center, so we do a lot of studies and stuff there also, as well as incorporate the programs. And Appleby is a 28-year-old horse that we have for our therapeutic riding program, as well as my regular lesson program. And if you look at this picture, she is very much a Cushing's case. We've had veterinarians work with her, and we've tried different stuff, but because they're not for profit, it's hard to get, you know, the funding for medications, that kind of stuff. So we just started her a couple weeks ago on the Pro Tandem, and I finally got them to let me start her on it because this spring, coming out of winter, she had a lot of sinus infections. I mean, she smelled horrible. She had gunk drainage coming out of her nose, her mouth. They thought she was going to die. She looked horrible. So they had the vets out. They put her on SMZs. The antibiotics weren't strong enough. So then they went ahead and put her on a different type of antibiotic, and that helped her. And then we started her on the Pro Tandem, and I have been using her for the past 2 weeks now for lessons again. She acts like she is 10 years younger already. I will be keeping track, taking pictures, and writing down notes of the progress and stuff she goes through. So I will keep everyone informed on all of that so everyone can see, because she really is a good case study. Her feet, we've had issues with laminitis with her, and her immune system just being so weak with all of this. So I'm hoping that she'll be a good case study for me to work with, so I can show all of you guys the progress that we've had, because in the amount of 2 weeks, I can see a lot of differences already. So she is one study. Also at Lakeland Center, we have another horse that I have some students that are going to try to show this year, and he's actually an ex-eventing pony now / therapeutic riding pony, but he gets very nervous when he is by himself. If it's windy, if he hears lots of noises, if he sees strange things. So we have started him on the Pro Tandem to see how much it helps calm and quiet him. And I actually used him for a lesson last night. And Indiana this year has had horrible weather for riding, and it's super windy, super cold. I put him in the indoor all by himself, which normally I have to have another horse in there. And my little lesson student, she's very timid. We're working on building confidence. She was able to handle him. He was a little nervous, but I was able to make noises. I pulled up bleacher sounds and stuff on my phone because we're getting ready for show season. And she handled it, and he handled it really well. He's adjusting pretty well. And again, he's just started 2 weeks ago. So he is doing great. I have 2 personal horses myself, my daughter and I, and the original horse that started this whole process for us is her show quarter horse that I have taken over. And he had autoimmune issues, and every time he would get a vaccination, it would come out in his eyes. His eyes would get all cloudy, and then he couldn't see, and that's not good for showing. So we worked with the vet. I have a really good holistic vet, and she does a lot of the Chinese herbs and stuff, and that helped for a while. And then I decided to put him on the Pro Tandem, and I started him with 2 pills a day because he had a major issue, but normally I just put him on 1. Appleby I have on 2, Mal I have on 1. Just to kind of see how the progression is for that. But Kirby, we started on to the quarter horse, and it took 4 or 5 months, but the cloudiness all went away. He has not had any issues, and his movement, he's my dressage horse now. He went from a Western pleasure horse to a nice dressage horse. He has that much more energy, and he's 16 years old this year. So he's a totally different horse, so much happier. And then we also have my daughter's little show POA mare that she showed, and she's won a bunch of stuff with, so we want to breed her. So she is 7 this year, maiden mare. She is actually at St. Mary of the Woods College because that's where my daughter goes with Sarah right now. And their repro program is starting out. So she's one of the first mares that they're using for that. And we just bred her a couple weeks ago. So next week we'll be doing a 14, 15-day check to see if she took or not. So that's the progress with her. And then again, like Sarah, I myself, I teach, I train. I had a lot of back issues before. Well, I started taking the Protandim and that helped a lot. But then the collagen, you guys, the collagen is amazing. I have a crooked back. So that really affects my hips, especially since I'm a school bus driver also. So I'm sitting quite a lot. I wasn't able to ride horses as much as I could before, but I'm back to riding 5, 6 horses as much as I can. It's amazing what the collagen has done to me in just a little bit of time. So that's just a quick version of some of the chapters of my story here. And again, I will keep you guys updated on the progress of the horses that I have that we're doing the studies on. So thank you, Patricia.
Oh, thank you so much. We look forward to your updates and thank you for all that. That's brilliant. So now we have Amber, again from the US, who is a kinesiologist for human and animal health, raises and shows Great Danes and French Bulldogs, and has been riding for 30 years. Definite animal lover. So Amber, if you'd unmute yourself and let's hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm going to address some of the questions in the chat as well. I have a little girl actually with me right here. But yes, I've been a kinesiologist for 15 years. I've been around horses and dogs, raised them for 30 years, coupled with working with different vets and a vast range of different things. And then also in the human side. So I love being able to have both areas. And don't let these girls humble themselves. Sarah is actually an instructor at one of the only equine colleges in Indiana. And she is 60 years old and she is running the fastest times of horses in barrels. But yeah, the beautiful thing about what Protandim does, you guys, is if we look up, if you were to go to Google Scholar and you were to type in, Cushing's or asthma or navicular or laminitis or colic or, all of these issues, if you were to type that in and then add in and oxidative stress, which is what I know Patricia's going to go over in just a minute, you are going to find a ton of resources, a ton of information that oxidative stress and that inflammation is the root cause to usually the issue we have going on. So the really cool thing is usually the issue is actually a symptom of what we have going on the inside, right? And it's across the board. It's not only with horses, it's the exact same with dogs. It's the exact same with cows. Candace didn't talk about it, but we work with one of the largest llama farms in Indiana, and we just saved a llama's life just last week. And it was a little girl's llama who she's supposed to show this summer. The vet didn't really have an answer, kind of didn't give it a great diagnosis, and the llama was running circles in just a few days after starting Protandim. So the beauty of it is all mammals, our cellular structure is the same, all right? Our foundation is exactly the same. So these keywords that you might hear in people, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, we're seeing that also in our animals. And it's happening a lot more frequently and a lot earlier in age than it should. Why? We live in a toxic world and it's all affecting us at a very increased rate. So I'll tell you a few stories that I have. One, about 4 years ago, I started this business when I had twins 4 years ago. And I also have horses. I think I had a litter of Great Dane puppies around the same time. And on bed rest before having twins, I sent my parents out to purchase this horse that I had just seen video and live and all of this, right? Well, a horse comes to us and it has double eye cancer. Yay. Didn't know about that. We ended up having to get some of its eyelids removed and did a few like liquid chemo treatments. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, we had to do that, but now I know what is the result of doing that, right? You're going to kill the horse's immune system. You're going to kill all the good cells in the body too. You're going to kill the hooves, the hair, you're going to create more anxiety. So I started him on Protandim, and I actually started him with 2 Protandim. He was about a 15-year-old horse. And I can't tell you, like, his hair coat changed. His mane changed colors for the better. His hoof growth started growing, and just those things were drastic. His issues never came back. And so that's what I absolutely love as well, is it was now kind of a healer and reduce risk for the future. I have another horse who, I live on farms, and in Indiana, it is corn fields and soybean fields and tractors, and my backyard is tractors, and that creates a lot of dust. And so we didn't even think about it, but we had gotten a new horse, and she came from a really cold environment down to Indiana, probably wasn't used to a bunch of corn dust, and it started asthma. So great, right? You have this performance horse that now has asthma. That's my show horse. Not going to be a good deal. We did a round treatment of an inhaler and then started on Protandim. Now that asthma totally went away. Her lungs cleared up. But the beauty of it is it didn't come back. And then coming into the next season, I doubled up on 2 Protandim, 1 in the morning, 1 at night, to make sure that her body was prepared. And we didn't have an issue, which was really awesome. How do we administer this with our horses? I just throw it in the grain. That's it. It's crushable. You could crush it if you wanted. If not, I just throw it in the grain. I did have one horse that would just eat it out of my hand. And I've had another picky horse that I needed to put it in like a piece of an apple. But you can administer it anyway. The beauty of it is there's a lot of supplements out there, right? And in the horse industry, you have a lot of people trying to be the chemist, really, for every different horse. Different supplements here, different grain, different oils, different herbs, or whatever, right? This takes out all of that. And I know it might sound crazy, but instead of trying to do all of that, it is one solution for all of it, which makes it incredibly fascinating. I guess another story, I'll switch over to dogs really quick. But again, same things happen. These are just things that I experienced in dogs. Same thing happens with horses. My Great Danes are 180 pounds, larger than a mini horse that I have. So, you know, the body's, the cellular structure, though, is exactly the same. Fertility, all right? That's a big thing. There's been a big drag in fertility in the last year. I'm going to couple it with the increase of toxic overload in our environment, but we can help the body be more fertile with Protandim. And so I did this with a litter of Great Danes, and I actually had a litter of 14 Great Dane puppies at one time. It was a bit crazy, but I wanted to make sure also that that mom had enough milk, that she wasn't under a ton of stress, that her body was working the way that it should to be able to care for these 14 babies. And it was awesome. No struggles afterwards. Her cervix looked amazing. She is actually 7-year-old Great Dane, and her cervix still looks so good that we're going to shoot for one more round of pups. I do it very responsibly. She's only ever had 3 litters in her life. But that is a testament to what we're doing, repairing and rejuvenating the body. My oldest Great Dane is 10. She still can run and walk a mile with me every day. Her eyes and her coordination is fantastic. I have a video of her catching treats, and 10 years old is really good for a Great Dane. With these Frenchies, little guys, they can have a lot of issues. Inflammation in particular in the larynx and the trachea. And so I did, they've been on the pet tandem, which is the smaller animal version. And yeah, absolutely. Pet tandem, the smaller animal version. And I've started from moms, completely during fertility, completely during pregnancy, completely post-pregnancy. And then little guys, I start them on it as soon as they can eat mush. As soon as they are eating puppy mush, they are starting on it. I have noticed better coats, less anxiety, easier to train. I think overall, like just better health. And again, that's not only for animals, also for people. So I love the ability, if you're questioning, like, would this work for this? Would this work for this? Would this work for this? Do a quick Google Scholar, not Google. All right. Google is, all right. You want to go to Google Scholar, and then you type in whatever your issue is with oxidative stress. With Protandem, we know, scientifically proven, hands down, 30 universities have studied it on their own. We can reduce that inflammation factor by 70% in 90 days. All right, 40% in 30 days. You have performance horses, barrel racers, race horses, reining and roping horses, any horses that are being transported all over the place. They are at a much higher level of stress. And so we want to make sure that we can reduce that for them. But yeah, that has kind of been my story. Oh, I do have another Great Dane puppy. Actually, the vets gave him an end of life diagnosis when he was 6 weeks old. They didn't know really how to fix him. He was regurgitating after every meal, had something going on with his esophagus and the sphincter. They didn't really know. Of course, when doctors don't know, what do? Listen, we're just going to go back to what I know to do. He is now over a year old. He's incredibly healthy. He has no issues. The meds that the vets wanted to put him on in a trial med, I tried it for 20 days. It didn't do anything. And this has absolutely just changed his trajectory of life. It has given him life. And he is just a 1.5-year-old healthy looking boy and not having any issues anymore. So that's kind of the things that I've experienced, but I am super excited to be able to have a very simple one thing to give for many, many, many. There's over 300 different diseases, ailments, and issues that I know of that this will benefit and help. And age doesn't matter. You know, if you come out, I've had a calf that was rejected by its mom, needed to be bottle fed. And those are really hard to keep weight on them and to keep them alive. And so to be able to have this to help boost their immune system, their absorption rate, and things like that in their body. So thanks for Patricia. I'll be here for Q&A after Lisa's done. But I am just so excited to be able to share this with you guys. We've been seeing some amazing, amazing results over here in the States.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. And I love the animal stories because there's no placebo effect. And they rely on us. They rely on us to make those decisions for them. And this is such an easy decision to make, and it's so effective. So I'll thank you. And now we're going to hop across the pond. We're going to welcome Lisa, who's here in the UK. And she is a horse owner as well as a dressage trainee judge, and has her own business focusing on natural approaches to equine health. So Lisa, if you'll unmute yourself, over to you.
Oh, hey guys, good evening everybody. And the funny thing is, when I saw some people advertising this presentation. Somebody said, are all the presenters American? We want to hear someone from here. Well, here I am. So I just thought we'd throw me in the mix so that we could have a different accent and somebody from somewhere else as well. It would be cool. But I'll just give you, I want to keep it and try and keep it as short as possible, because everybody knows when it comes to this, I can go on a bit, but I'm going to try and rein it in. But my background with horses comes from a very young age. I've rode ever since I was 7 years old. And probably about mid-teenage years, I worked for a competitive yard. We focused majority on show horses through the summer season, usually hunters and working hunters. And through the off season, we would buy and produce young horses, mainly through show jumping. But I left the UK and lived in the US for about 12 years. And with leaving home and the travel, and then having a career and a family and a corporate job and being a single mom, I had quite a break from the horse industry. And the really great and interesting part that I'll share with you guys is it was actually becoming a LifeVantage distributor that allowed me both, number one, a business and opportunity to have the time to return to the equestrian industry, and number two, the resources to be able to do so as well, if I'm honest. So I'm back at it like a mad woman, like I was back then, and have been more focused on dressage since then. But I want to share with you, I actually got into LifeVantage, funnily enough, just before I got back into the equestrian side of my life. And it was the benefits that I had as a person that really had me become a LifeVantage distributor in the first place. But then obviously when I started to learn more and more about the effects of oxidative stress on equines, obviously this started to become more and more interesting to me. And I have one of my horses. I'll show you a quick image if it lets me. I think this is it. This is one of my horses, Sid. He's a massive 18-hand heavyweight registered Irish Draft hunter. He's a very big lad. He would be classed as a heavyweight. And when I got him at 6, 7, rising 8, he had unfortunately had a very, very full career as a hunter, not a show hunter. I mean, like a full-on galloping down the road hunter. And he'd been, probably rode not apologetically because he was a hunter, and he'd had a very active life for a horse of his size. From the age of 4 up until 7, he'd probably done 5 full seasons as a hunter. And when after a couple of years of owning him, I started to realize I needed a weight carrier at the time. So he was appropriate for me, a bit wild as a first horse back after a while, but we figured it out. And he was starting to show some very slight signs of early onset arthritis. So I started to put him on Protandim immediately, knowing everything that I do about the product and how it works in humans, and also seeing other people's examples of it working in the equines also. And it did actually really help him become a lot looser, more supple. But I'll tell you the most shocking thing about him that this really pricked my ears up with. He had, when I got him, quite a large formed splint on his front offside leg. It was not a problem to him. He was never lame. It was fully formed. It was never an issue. The vet passed him off on it. But it was pretty large. And then on his offside, that was his near side, his offside front, he also had quite a large, not as big, but still a pretty decent splint on that leg as well. And they never caused him a problem. But after a while of putting him on Protandim, I decided to up his dose to 4 tablets a day, just because I was looking at other horses and what they were taking. And he's a massive dude, you know, he's a huge horse. And so I put him on 4 tablets a day for probably 3 to 6 months, in between there somewhere. One day I was, after giving him a shower, and I put him in his stable, and I was just going down over his legs. I got to his front legs, and he'd had these splints for 3 years. The splint on his offside, the smaller one, had completely reabsorbed into his leg. I mean, completely. You couldn't even tell it was there. So I immediately jumped to the other leg, and that one was pretty much almost gone. There was still some sign of it, but that splint that was quite significant had completely reabsorbed. Now, call it a coincidence. It had been there the whole time. It was there before I got him. But since I upped the dose to the 4 a day, it suddenly disappeared. Now I have another horse who is very different. She's a very lightweight, small 16-hand Oldenburg mare that will be my dressage horse. She was rising 2 when I got her. She came with, I purchased her. The breeder sent me a really apologetic message saying, "You're never going to believe it. She's injured her leg this week, but don't worry, she's fine. It's not too bad." But she came down and they dressed it with some wound powder, and that wound didn't heal. In fact, that mare didn't heal well at all. If she scraped her skin quite significantly, so it was broken and flesh was showing, she tended to heal quite proud. So I don't know if that's a UK terminology for it didn't heal flush to the skin. It'd have like a little lump, and it just didn't heal properly. So after I checked his legs, I put this mare on Protandim from the very day I got her. She took 1 to 2 Protandim every single day in her feed, because I just wanted her to grow fit, healthy, as physically possible as a youngster. I walked over to her stable and I checked her leg, and that mark had completely gone altogether, because I was wondering if there was a bone chip in there at one point. It was quite hard. So that was my first experience with my own horses. I then introduced it to a friend of mine in the Netherlands who breeds, believe it or not, quarter horses in the Netherlands. It's the least you would expect somebody to be doing over there, I think. But she does, and she's a trainer, and she trains other people. And she had an old pony that was really bad with laminitis. I mean, it could barely walk. And so she was giving it 2 a day. It wasn't really doing anything. She upped it up as a loading dose for a month on 4 a day. And that pony went from hardly being able to walk like a normal pony down the block. And so this is not a coincidence. This is definitely having an effect. And if you like Amber said, and I think Patricia's going to explain, if you go and start to do your own research on the effects of oxidative stress in equines, you will see it is related to many, many health issues. And so we're all, you could tell we're all super excited and passionate about this. And that is simply because of our own personal experiences and our love for these incredible 4-legged beasts that drive us insane. Why do we do it? And we want to really just help share these stories with other people, increase people's confidence in just giving this a go. It's way more affordable than most other options that are out there. And as I have 2 French bulldogs, funnily enough, as well, Amber. And I will tell you now, anytime my son takes care of them, most of the time, they're like his babies. He stole them. They basically don't belong to me anymore. And anytime the only time he comes down to talk to me about the dogs is if he thinks they need the vet, because obviously then I have to pay. But I'll tell you now, before any of those dogs go to the vet, whether they just don't look well, whether they're limping, whether they're, the cherry pop in their eye, whatever it's ever been, I'm telling you now, I put those dogs on a Protandim a day for at least 3 days to a week before I will even consider taking them to the vet. And I'll tell you what, neither of them have ever needed to go to the vet. They've been fine after 3 or 4 days. So yeah, I highly recommend getting back to the person who invited you here, get your questions answered, give this a chance. And also I made, this stuff is so amazing. I made this into a whole lifestyle, and we've been able to take this product all over Europe and expand it into several different markets. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys. I think that's probably enough.
Oh, Lisa, that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I know that you are in 22 minutes going to be.
So what a lot of the questions were, what is it? How does it? This sounds amazing, but we don't know. So actually in about 20 minutes, it'll be 8 o'clock GMT time. I'm actually hosting a presentation. You get back to the person who invited you if you want to jump on there and learn more, but I'm actually going to be sharing exactly what Nrf2 is, how it works, what it does in the full shebang in hopefully about 20 minutes. So in length, but it will definitely be in 20 minutes is what I meant.
You'll put your Zoom in the chat, that
yeah,
Zoom
sure.
in the chat. Okay, thanks so much. So what great stories, so many stories, and all so very different. And isn't it interesting what humans and animals have in common? We heard of several different animals, not just horses, and the things that we have in common that are basic to our levels of health. So I love every time one of these beautiful creatures has been helped naturally. I am not a horse owner. I am a horse lover. So I'm not even a horse owner, and I have saved many, many horses from being put down just because of the stories that we've heard tonight. So now, while we do not claim to treat, cure, or mitigate any diseases, let's have a look at what this Nrf2 activation is. So I'm going to share my screen. And we need to get back to that. And here we go. So let's see if this will play like it's supposed to. There we go. So to understand Nrf2 activation, which is what Protandim does, let's first look at and understand oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is present in all of our cells when there's an imbalance in the number of free radicals causing damage and our body's ability to effectively eliminate them. So an average human produces 300 septillion free radicals per day, every day. That's just an average human. So the free radicals are both from internal and external influences, and they are toxins that we're all exposed to that create free radicals. While we don't necessarily see free radicals, we can see their effects. So here we have an illustration of a normal, healthy, functioning cell. So that's the blue one with a little green nucleus. So that cell has the ability to fight back against the free radicals that it's dealt with. And then we have a cell that is being attacked by more free radicals than the cell can compensate for. And then finally, we see a cell that has lost its ability to fight and has succumbed to the free radical damage and is now a diseased cell. So while we can't see our cells, we've all seen the effects of an apple cut in half, and we see it turn brown from the exposure to oxygen in the air. The same thing happens in our cells over time as our natural defenses decline. But our body is designed to overcome them, as we see in the first cell. But as we get older, the free radicals begin to win out more and more. But the good news is Nrf2 activation can help us get back in the fight. So how do we fight oxidative stress and free radical damage? Well, Nrf2 is a protein messenger in each of our cells, which signals a response to oxidative stress by turning on our ability to make more antioxidants. So there are two types of antioxidants, direct and indirect. So with direct antioxidants, which are the ones you consume in fruits and veggies and vitamins and stuff, one molecule of antioxidant can fight one molecule of free radical, and then they're both eliminated. But keeping in mind how many free radicals we're exposed to every day, that would be quite a lot. So the better option is the antioxidants our body makes. Several different types, but the main one, which you've probably heard of, is glutathione. Glutathione is our body's master antioxidant that our body actually makes. So each molecule of antioxidant our body makes can fight 1 million free radicals every second, 24/7, and only the free radicals die. So that little antioxidant goes on and on and on. So now we're actually getting somewhere. So don't just take antioxidants, make your own. Well, you might be asking, well, how does this relate to horses? Well, there are many studies on equine health, and we heard Google Scholar is one place to look that up. And so a lot on equine health and oxidative stress. But I chose this one because it illustrates the simplicity of our goal, which is to maintain the antioxidant-oxidant equilibrium and thereby improve animal welfare. And that's exactly what Nrf2 does. As we saw in the cell illustration, free radicals get out of control and our antioxidant production just can't keep up. And that's where the problem starts. So we can address the imbalance before a problem manifests in a symptom, or address it when something like laminitis becomes evident. Inflammation is the result of the damage, so issues like laminitis show up. Quite simply, Nrf2 activation dials up our production of our natural antioxidants like glutathione, but also some you probably haven't heard of like catalase and superoxide dismutase. Now, this is another good resource for you if you're familiar with Equus magazine. They often produce studies and highlight some issues. So they highlighted two here. One is the dopamine neurons are damaged by free radicals, which are byproducts of oxidative processes, indicating a strong association of oxidative stress to neurons in horses with PPID. And then oxidative stress has been associated with motor neuron disease in horses. So those are two very difficult issues to deal with. Oftentimes vets, sort of give up, but we now have a very natural and effective approach. So how does oxidative stress affect your horse? Well, there are many ways: metabolic disease, Cushing's disease, which we heard about, EMS, HEAVES, which is an inflammatory airway disease, eye diseases like uveitis, even osteoarthritis, and tendon and muscle injuries, and fatigue, sarcoids, and other tumors, inability to sweat, which isn't such a problem here in the UK in colder climates, but in warmer climates, it can be quite serious, and stomach ulcers, hoof issues like laminitis, founder, navicular, and head shaking, which can be a trigeminal nerve issue. And I've got a fabulous story about that. And so then how does Nrf2 affect your horse? Well, inflammation levels are decreased while antioxidant levels are increased. As a result, benefits could include better skin and coat, increased energy and endurance, healthier immune system, better joint health and mobility, reduced joint pain and inflammation, stronger resistance to allergies, better tooth and gum health, better cardiovascular health, increased mental function and alertness, and reduction of age-related health problems. Now, I put this slide up here because I think it shows the organs in the horse that are affected, and then it highlights the disease state that can be affecting that organ. Interesting that some are some of the ones that humans have to deal with, like glaucoma and cataracts, COPD, arthritis, several that are common amongst mammals, really. So if you'd like to take a screenshot of that, please do. And I think it's great to refer to that, if you have a look at this first to see if something pops up, and then you might want to delve in a little bit deeper, and of course, get with the person who invited you on tonight to direct that research. Now, laminitis is sort of what brought this group together. And, this time of year, it can be a big problem due to grass, but there are many factors that contribute to laminitis. In fact, an event that kicked off Nrf2 activation in the horse world, it's about 10 years ago, was when a mare in Florida delivered a stillborn foal and developed full-blown laminitis from that. She was owned by a well-known thoroughbred breeder with some of the best vets available, who tried everything to help her and finally advised putting her down. Well, she was more than just another horse. She was a favorite, and out of desperation, her owners gave her their Nrf2 activators because nothing could hurt her at this point, and they had no idea if it would help. But she survived the night. The next morning, she was winnowing to her stablemates and has gone on to deliver several healthy foals. So that was a good 10 years ago now. I know she's 23 at the moment. But here are examples of a pony, 17-year-old pony, history of chronic laminitis and metabolic syndrome. And you can see the transition of the hoof just from April to July. So imagine what is happening inside her body for that to take place. So thank you for staying with us thus far. I am going to now, while you gather your thoughts and your questions, I'm going to play a short 4-minute video clip of a couple of horses that had several issues, and their owners took before and after videos, and just delight in sharing how their horses turned around. And then we're going to answer your questions.
Quite a long video for this.
I didn't do my slides this morning. But how did you reckon that went?
Well, I never get tired of seeing those. So here we go. If you would like to unmute yourselves, and we'll take your questions. Oh, yes, I know it. It's hard to watch in the beginning, but when we see the result, go ahead.
Patricia, I know in the chat someone asked if they're in a show or some sort of competition, should they increase? I wish I could do my best English accent for you guys so that I fit in, but so I would say yes, as long as, like here, if we have a track horse and they are drug tested, sometimes in some drug testing, the ashwagandha will show up. So 7 days prior, they will stop their horse. But that's not the masses. Usually no competitions don't drug test. Maybe if dressage might, if you're doing kind of higher competitions, but you can, interestingly enough, give the Axio to your horse. And how cool is that? You can give the Axio, and you can also give it to your performance dogs if you'd like. But that is just going to help them with their just calmness, their performance, their recovery, and things like that as well.
So knowing that Axio is a powder that we add to water to mix up, which interestingly.
Yep.
How do you give it to a horse? Just in the water bucket? What's the ratio there?
So I guess you could put it in their water bucket, and I would probably not give a full water bucket just because how much are they really going to drink, right? Mm-hmm. Or being a powder, I mean, you could probably sprinkle it on grain too if you wanted.
I've done some sublingual Axio.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Interesting to play with. That's great. I hadn't even thought about that.
It's actually new information to myself as well. But Candace, who was on, is the one who told me that, and I was like, oh my gosh, no way.
Wow, that's tremendous. Right. Any questions? Any more questions? If so, just unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat. Sometimes we get too many in the chat and they all disappear. Anyone else? And I've got a lot of horsey people on here tonight, so now's your chance. If no more questions, then
yeah, I have a question if you can hear me. Is this going to be recorded?
We have recorded it, yes.
Okay, and where can we find the recording?
Can you, how did you learn about this call?
It was posted on one of our Facebook pages. I'm not positive where I saw it.
Okay, I'm going.
If you could write my name down and maybe try to message me through Facebook, that would be great.
Okay. Ellen. Oh, so Ellen's iPhone. What is your surname?
Yeah, so it's going to be Ellen. The middle name is Lyle, Lisle. Last name is Simones, Semones. I'll type it in the chat.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay.
Can I just ask a question, please,
Sure.
Patricia? With our American friends, are you able to tell us whether you know if racehorses have been using it in America, and if it's approved by, the American Jockey Club?
Yeah, Amber, take that one.
Yeah, so actually that story that you were talking about, Patricia, with the mare who had the Leonidas, it's actually a pretty huge racetrack who has the Secretariat lineage at their track.
And needles as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and they use it. Now, we actually have coming up here in Indiana, we have a pretty big track, and one of Candace's clients will have their first race of being on Pro Tandem. And so that's pretty exciting, but you just have to look up what are the regulations for the drug testing done. I know there's different ones in different areas. And so you just have to look up what that is. And I do know I had another race gal, and she was like, it's the ashwagandha will show up in this testing, so we just stop it 7 days prior. Like
I've
I
heard
said.
that a lot too. Yeah.
So it just depends, but yes, horses and jockeys, there are actually jockeys on this as well. I know here, I don't know if there, but barrel racing is also very, very popular. And we have a lot of bleeders. So horses that start to bleed out just from the mass amount of stress. And it is completely gone, like no issues anymore.
That is amazing. In America, it was, snake venom. That's what they used for bleeders, yes, which wasn't approved in England, so bleeding was still a big issue and is.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. So I've had several barrel racing friends that was kind of their very first thing, no bleeding. And another horse was lame. Gosh, I don't remember how long she was lame, but came back and is doing phenomenal in some serious races, not just little races, but some serious races. People keep asking about the dosage. So here's the really cool thing, guys. It's honestly 1 pill is standard, all right, for humans, for dogs, for horses, all right. Now, if you have something that's more serious going on, like Candace's autoimmune disease with the eyes, 2 to 3. And then maintenance phase back down to 1. Like Lisa said, with the bones, she did 6. So I've given a Dane who had a serious bone issue 6 a day. So, but those are very, very serious and for a short amount of time, right? But typically 1 to 2. I do have a barrel racer. She's a professional racer, and she's told me maximum she's given was 4. And that was for her very, like, they're going every weekend, they're showing, they're traveling, they're doing all sorts of stuff every single weekend. But yeah, so it's kind of just a trial and error. I know, like, hey, I'm not really seeing a bunch of change here after 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to increase the dosage and see what change I get.
I had a horse a couple of years ago. A lady contacted me because her horse was so lame that the vet said to put her down. And this was actually this lady's best friend. And she got on a video call with me out in the yard. And my first sight of seeing this horse, I thought she taught it to dance because it was just like this on all 4 hooves. And then I realized it was in agony, immediately collapsed while we're on this video. So I overnighted her. She had ordered, but it would take, a few days. So I overnighted her, I think 10 tablets. So she gave 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. That was on a Thursday. Sunday, she sent me a video, and Beth was just walking in the snow. This was in January. We'd had some snow. She just sniffing the snow, turned her right around. But you can't hurt by giving more. And when a horse is in such acute agony, just throw it at them, just like like Bonnie did with Miss Pangea.
Yeah. I know Alberto's on the line. He's of one of the top veterinarians in Mexico City, and specifically dogs as pet tandem. But his stories, I mean, the dogs are fast, guys. They are fast turnarounds. Days. Like Lisa was saying, she makes sure they at least have 3 to 6 days on pet tandem before they go to the vet. But they are some very fast turnarounds. So the horses, sometimes every horse is different, right? Just like every person. I just love all of his testimonies, but sometimes it might be very fast. It might be, or it might take 2 to 3 months. Like, it just depends. But it is so much faster than anything else that you have been or could have been doing. And even something as simple as hoof growth. Here in the US, like, abscess and hoof growth is awful. And abscess, like, I'm just so thankful I haven't had to treat abscess in like 3 years. But to be able to just totally take out hoof supplements because they just don't work. They don't work, guys. They don't work very well. And to have something that does, there has been just barriers that are a part of the company, because now they have something that they can recommend that they know works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the stories could go on and on. I joke and I say my animals are my most expensive hobby, which I think we all can agree, and the worst business investment. And but this company and being a part of this has allowed me to be able to have the cushion to do the things that I love to do there. And why not be able to do something you love with something you love, fund it, finance it, have fun with it, and then help others do the same.
Exactly. Gosh, we could go on and on and on, because I've got so many stories too. But any more questions? If not, then we'll let you all go, because we've gone over just a little bit, but that's all right, I think. And then I'll get this recording posted in the groups that I know about, and ask the person who invited you on the call tonight if you would like to get started on any of these products, or if you'd like the recording, and they'll be in touch. I think that's it. Thank you, Amber, so much.
Thank you.
Love it. Maybe we need to do this again.
Very fun.
Okay. Bye for now, everyone.